What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Lemire D, host of the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. Nice to see you guys. I know it's been a while. I know, but I still love you guys. As promised, we got a lot going on today. It's a very special and exciting episode. I mean, for those of you guys who know me, I'm kind of like high energy anyways, but today's a little bit different. We got poetry as our topic tonight. I'm super excited about that. But also, for those of you guys who've been with me for the last month, I told you every episode, I'm going to be getting a little bit better. And I mean, I don't know. I think this one might take the cake. So, one of the things that we're doing here at the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast, we're creating a platform where people can connect, reach out, share, touch each other in a way that it's not cumbersome. There's so much going on in the world, and I feel like there's a lot of heavy topics that we're talking about. Sometimes when it's late, you've gone through the day, you just need a space where you can come, hang out, chill, connect, talk with your friends, and that's what we're going to do here today. And so, speaking of talking with our friends, guys, I got a special guest for you guys. So, before I bring this person on, I want to let you guys know this is someone that I met over 17 years ago. Can you imagine that? Knowing someone for 17 years and they're just as amazing and inspiring as they were the first time you met. She works in California, but she's also worked in Boston for the Mayor's Youth Council for a number of years. I think she's the head executive of the participatory budgeting project in California as well as in Massachusetts. She does a number of different things. And best of all, she's my homie. So without any further ado, I'm going to welcome to you guys the new co-host of the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast, Miss Shari Davis. Shari, what's up?
I'm so excited to be here with you, to learn with you, to get better with you. And
what's up?
17 years is a long time, huh?
Oh man, yo, I can't even fathom what 17 years looks like. I forgot how long this has been. But I don't know. How do you feel? I butchered your intro, so I'm sorry about that, but how you doing?
Man, I'm doing so good. I think I'm super excited to be here. I feel like, Lumiere, you know me so well. And all of this is about our relationship, but really like just people connecting with each other. And I think that there are so many ways to introduce a human being. And all of that to say, you gave me the best intro that I could have possibly imagined. I think I'm just thrilled to be in conversation with a super dear friend, and especially about a topic that I love.
Listen, we got a lot of stories. As you guys know, this show is all about stories. We're going to talk a lot about poetry, not too technical. I mean, again, it's 12:07. I think all the technical talk is done. It's okay. You can put your brain on break. It's fine. Some house rules. Guys, I can't see all four of you who are logged on, so feel free to drop a comment, say what's up, stay as long as you like, stay as short as you like. If you want to be that creepy person on the live stream that watches the entire episode and doesn't say anything, that's cool with me. But if you want to drop a comment and say, yo, Lo, I'm here. Hey, Shari, I know you. I'm here. Drop a comment and we'll shout you out. As you know, every episode we're going to get a little bit better. We do have the HD camera going on, so if it's a little laggy, I apologize in advance. We'll get better at it. As you know, in the background, we got the lo-fi, because lo-fi is kind of like my favorite station. So if you guys are curious of the beats that are going in the background, upbeat lo-fi on Spotify. Definitely check them out. As I say every episode, you guys know that I am a word nerd. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the definition of poetry. So according to Miss Merriam-Webster, the definition of poetry is metrical writing, verse, or the productions of a poet. Okay, so if I'm a poet, whatever I produce is poetry. Okay, I get that. Kind of a circular definition, but Merriam-Webster, I'm going to let you get away with that. That's fine. The second definition says writing that formulates a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience in language chosen and arranged to create a specific emotional response through meaning, sound, and rhythm. Basically, what they're saying is putting words together in a certain way that makes you feel a certain way, whether it's because of how the words sound or their meanings or both. And then the last definition is something likened to poetry, especially in beauty of expression. And I think that for me is the definition that I kind of like gravitate to the most. So we're gonna talk about all of that. If you guys are just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It They Will Come podcast. We're gonna be here till about 2 a.m. Feel free to stay as long as you like. Shari, anything I'm missing before we jump right in?
No, I think I'm excited to talk about it. All of this conversation about verse and poetry and what this means and to make sense of that definition that you just read.
I'm so excited. Okay, so a little bit of background. So oh geez. How do I say this? So I started writing poetry when I was in fourth grade. I went to the Lee School, great public school, city of Boston. Ms. DeNitto, never forget her. She was a sweet lady, and she said, all right, today we're writing poetry. Okay, nothing fancy. She just said, she gave us the rubric per se. She said, all right, this is what a poem is, and I'm going to help you guys write a poem. And my first poem ever, I don't remember all of it. I just remember how it starts. It was, this is my poem. I do my hair with a comb. This is my poem. And I say all that to say this, that I didn't realize how much of a revolution in my life that poem would have. Because as you guys know, I talk way too much. And the reason is my brain is going 1,000 miles a minute. But when I'm writing, I don't need 10 words. I can use an illusion or an allegory, and then people will understand it. So it's easier for me to focus my thoughts and my minds using poetry. So that's kind of my start. So Shari, like for you, I know you've been writing. Tell me your experience about poetry. How did you start writing poetry?
We have I think our connection is actually like the genesis of it was poetic, and it was poetry. Literally and figuratively. But before that, because Lou, you and I met when we were teenagers, but yep. My history with poetry was much bigger or longer, extended beyond that. And it's interesting, I was just going through some of my old stuff, and I found one of my journals from fourth grade. We just talked about fourth grade. And in it is a lot of very weird poetry from a 10-year-old. Yeah. And so that's the earliest poetry that I have that's recorded. But when I think about that journal, I have been practicing my poetry for a long time. I can't think of the first instance, but, growing up, my mom brought us up in the Catholic Church. I don't identify as a Catholic, but that is my first memory of poetry. It's biblical. Really? Yeah.
I can dig that. The funny thing is I also grew up in a Catholic household, so church on Sundays. And to be honest, when I was in it, I didn't really understand it. As I grew up, as a lot of people do, they'll question their faith and they'll go back in. So when I was reading the Bible, I was like, yo, there's a lot of like really cool poetry in it in itself. So that's another chapter in my poetry experience that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But what I want to do is I don't want to ignore all of you lovely people who are sitting here watching. So my question for you guys is what does poetry mean to you? How has poetry impacted your life? Or has it impacted your life? Or do you just like not get it at all? Like, Lemire, Shari, like you guys talking about poetry, but I'm like, I don't know. It's not really connecting. Let me know. Feel free to jot it down in a comment. Like I said, we want to hear your experiences. As usual, I put this up on Facebook a little while ago. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull that up and see what some people have said. But in the meantime, while I'm pulling it up, we're going to jam out to some tunes, some more lo-fi. I'm going to put the volume a little bit. Shari, if you got anything for me, give it to the people. And for those of you guys who are here, we'll be right back. It's the If You Stream It They Will Come podcast. We be here.
We be here.
All right. So, ladies and germs, welcome to the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. For those of you guys just tuning in tonight, we're talking about poetry. And I'm here with our new co-host, Miss Shari Davis. For those of you guys,
What's going on?
Hey, for those of you guys who don't know Shari, she is an amazing individual. Personally, she is one of the people that has helped me develop in my poetry experience. One of the things that I really admired about poetry is that poetry allowed me to express myself. And one of the things that I admire about Shari, and Shari, I know you know this already, is that you're one of the few people that no matter what time of day, I could just write you a poem and I know that I was going to get a poem back. It could be 10 sentences, it could be 3 pages, 10 paragraphs. I knew by the end of the day, I was going to get another poem back and I would never feel judged. I would never feel like awkward. And I think that's one of the beauties about poetry is that it's such an equalizer. It doesn't really matter where you're from. I'll put it like this. It doesn't matter your experience. Poetry says, whatever your experience is, I'm going to be a vehicle for you. Some people only write love poems. Some people only write anger poems, especially in this day and age. There's a lot of political poetry or about rights and things of that nature, but that's fine because those are your experiences. But the beautiful thing about poetry is everything is beautiful in its time, you know? And poetry is one of the ways that shows us that no matter what your experiences are, to some person, somewhere, it can be beautiful, you know?
That's what art is, and I think what you shared about, having space to experiment with words, I think another way to think about poetry is as experimentation, right? You read this definition at the beginning and it sounded scientific. And there's this opportunity to try things out, to see how syllables sound next to each other, to flirt with expression and to flirt with the concept, like the realities of expression, and to like liberate that. I think poetry is all of those things. And for me, I get a little bit self-conscious when I write, especially when I think about grammar and all these rules, like where does that comma go? But when we step into the realm of poetry, those rules are different. Right. And that's part of why I like it, but also it's just this license to try some things out.
No, I definitely dig it. So, as I said, we want to check in with the people on Facebook. So let's see what the people got. So the question that I put on Facebook was simply this: what is poetry and what does poetry mean to you? So let's take a look at what people said. So Miss Francesca M, she says, it's a way to relate, a way to dump my ideas. I definitely agree with that because I feel the same. Patricia G says, poetry is the finest word expression where you can pour your heart, your soul, your emotions, your thoughts in sometimes in many words and sometimes in just one word. Michael Legier says, haikus are easy, but so they don't make sense. So my buddy, shout out to Mike Legier. I went to college with him. He's a great guy. He's a funny guy. So he writes, and he writes haiku. He says, haikus are easy, but so they don't make sense. Refrigerator. He wrote, Mike, shout outs to you. And of course, we have Mr. Rob Suave. He says, you are safe in my lands where there are no alarms. Just keep your green hands off my Lucky Charms. Shout outs to DJ Rob Suave. For those of you guys who don't know, he's afraid of leprechauns. So if we get to dance again sometime soon and there's a Halloween party, don't dress as a leprechaun because that won't end well. Let's take a look at one more, and then what we'll do is we'll get into some poetry, and then we'll get back to these guys. Yeah. So Will says poetry is a unique attempt at communicating. Oh, I like that. He says poetry is a unique attempt at communicating the incommunicable.
That's real.
Yeah. I think.
Isn't that the purpose of a metaphor?
I mean, come on now. I think that's probably like the best definition that I've heard of poetry. So Speaking of early poems, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of the earliest poems that I found, well, that I found that spoke to me, and I'm going to read that, and then we'll see how that takes us. And for those of you guys who are watching, let me know, is there a poem that spoke to you guys, whether it's old, whether it's new, whether you wrote it or somebody else wrote it? Feel free to comment. If you don't know how to comment, for those of you guys who are watching on Facebook, just jot it right down in the live stream. We'll see it, we'll pull it up. And if you're shy, that's okay. You don't have to say anything. You can just enjoy the conversation. But if you're like, you know what, Lemire, Shari, I got this fire that I get off my chest, let me know. Drop a comment in the feed and we'll send you a link and we'll give you your shot. So, Shari, what's one of your favorite poems?
I have a lot of favorites. I think there are a couple that come to mind like right now, but in high school they used to make us do this thing called declamation.
Yeah.
And 3 times a year at my high school you had to get up and recite from memory
Oh,
a
wow.
poem or speech in front of your class,
Wow.
and then you are graded on it. And I went to the same school, the same like high school for 6 years. Started grade 7, went to grade 12.
Yeah.
Anyways, the poem that I did all the time. So I always did poems by Black writers, by Black poets. And so a big popular one for me was "Still I Rise" by Maya Angelou. That's pretty etched into my brain. But yeah, one of my favorites for sure. "Still I Rise."
Word. Definitely. I've only heard pieces of that poem, but if you want to pull it up and you want to bless, because I know you probably still got it locked and etched in, so I would love to hear it. For me, a lot of my formative poetry years were in grade school. A lot of times in grade school, hey, first love after. So okay, first and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to Miss Anna Masacote. I'm so happy that she could join. For those of you guys who don't know who Miss Anna Masacote is, she is a fabulous dance teacher. She has done amazing things in Boston and in Rhode Island in the terms of salsa dance scene. One of the things that I love about her the most is she's the perfect example of what legacy looks like. It's not so much that she was good at what she did in terms of the salsa scene, to look at the lives that she has touched who have then spawned great movements on their own. That's legacy. And maybe another, I think we already had an episode on legacy. We might have a part 2. And Anna, we might have to do an interview with you. So there's that. But I say all that to say this, that it's funny that the poem that she mentions is "Love After Love" by Derek Walcott, because my favorite poem is "Friendship After Love" by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. A lot of my poetry came when I was in grade school. They give you projects in I think it's February is National Poetry Month. And so you're always learning and studying. But for me, ever since that first experience in 5th grade, it just took off. And every time it was poetry season, I was like, I'm ready. And I wanted to learn so much. But what I love about this poem is that it's so simple, but it's so impactful. And every year that I've grown and I've had more experiences, the poem becomes more and more true. So I'm going to pull it up on the screen and I'm going to read it, and then we'll see where that takes us. Yeah. Let me see if I got it. Add it to the screen. All right, y'all. Let's take a look. I'm going to make the screen a little bit bigger so we can all see it. Shari, can you read that? Are we good?
We're good.
All right, fantastic. After the fierce midsummer all ablaze has burned itself to ashes and expires in the intensity of its own fires, there comes the mild, mellow St. Martin days, crowned with a calm of peace, but sad with haze. So after love has led us till he tires of his own throes and torments and desires, comes large-eyed friendship with a restful gaze. He beckons us to follow, and across cool verdant vales we wander free from care. Is it a touch of frost that lies in the air? Why are we haunted with a sense of loss? We don't wish back the pain or the heat, and yet, these days are incomplete. So that is "Friendship After Love" by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. And for me, it's just like, I always tell people I don't have many friends. And for those of you guys who think you're my friends, don't take it personal. But for my real friends, you'll already get it. It's like, no, he doesn't. But no, it's like, it's not that I don't like people. It's not that I'm not, cordial or that I'm a jerk. Sometimes I'm an a-hole. I get that. But what I mean by that is like a friendship is a two-way street, but it's a two-way responsibility. If I'm opening up everything of me to you, you are now responsible to keep it and guard it as if it's precious. And because I know everyone has a lot on their own plate, that's heavy for me. So I don't want to put that burden on everyone. Some people say, let me, you're being crazy. Whatever. I say all that to say this, especially dealing in the realm of relationships. That's one of the things that's been the most challenging, because as you get close to someone in, let's say, an intimate relationship, it doesn't necessarily mean physically intimate, just mean like your souls connect. When you have to remove that intimacy, it's tough, because you can have a level of acquaintanceship. And then for me, I feel like friendship is like the highest level, and out of that friendship, things happen. But when you have an intimacy that's born out of friendship, it's like you've got something special in the middle of something that's really special. So the problem is, if I take that thing that's really special out, there's a hole in the middle of that thing that's already supposed to be special. And so what this poem is saying is that, granted, when you fall in love, at least my interpretation, when you fall in love with someone or you feel really passionate about it, it's large, it's fiery, you got the emotions filled up. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but that passion is there. But like, as many things do, they got to come to an end. And when they come to an end, sometimes you guys can be friends. You guys can still have a relationship minus that fire intimacy. But sometimes, no matter how amicable you guys are, there's always that little, I wish, I wonder, those old days that kind of comes back, And yeah.
Lou, I feel you, and I think that this poem definitely speaks to that. But I wonder, what struck me is towards the end, there are some questions in it, and it's almost as if the author is kind of like, yeah, I'm left with a sense of loss, but why? And is it like, is it even that? And I think that speaks to exactly what you're saying, but how there could be this, maybe there is awkwardness, maybe there's some what if, but there's an opportunity to actually move past that and even recognize that piece of it. Like, I that questioning at the end really stands out to me.
I never thought about it that way. I think, and here's one of the beautiful things about poetry is many times it's open to interpretation. And even if there's a poem where there's like an exact definition, as we read it later, as different generations and different eyes read it, they'll interpret it their own way. And like sometimes you can say, oh, that's the wrong interpretation. But I feel like the beauty of poetry is like, I can look at the same poem that you're looking at, and we can have like completely different, not completely different, but different enough interpretations where like I can see something new from a poem that I've been reading for like 10, 15 years, So I think that's pretty dope. Did you want to read Still I Rise, or do you want me to pull it up?
I got you. Yeah, we could do that.
All right.
I got a lot of favorites. Still I Rise is one of those like oldies but goodies.
Okay.
If there are any folks that went to Boston Latin School who are people of color that listen to this, they will be laughing right now because they're going to be like, I had to do that for declamation too. It was almost a rite of passage, but it's a oldie but goodie for me. And Lumir, I'll give you a moment to let the people pull it up, or to pull it up for the people. But Maya Angelou is one of my true favorites. One of my other favorite pieces that she did was Phenomenal Woman, and she is I think of her as a activist, but also a like word seductress. I just think that she's a phenomenal poet, which is why she made a poem called Phenomenal Woman. So with that, I will give you a quick reading of Still I Rise. This is the Shari Davis edition of this oldie but goodie for you. Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise. I rise. I rise. And this is where the whole classroom goes wild. And you usually get a standing ovation if you do this particular poem for declamation at Boston Latin School.
Yeah. It's like, just throw the fist in the air like, what up? Yeah.
Shout out to Maya
Angelou. You know what I like about this piece is I really like the repetition, the still I rise. It shows that no matter what the author, in this case Maya Angelou, is going through, that she doesn't see it as a barrier. And it's like, and it's not necessarily everything that she is expressing is necessarily a negative. Like she says, does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I'll dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? You know, it's like oftentimes when we think of strength, it always is juxtaposed with something negative. You're like, I'm strong because I'm overcoming adversity. I'm strong because I'm not going to let anybody put me down. But in this case, she's saying, I'm strong because I'm fly and I got it like that. But even despite all that, I'm still going to be on top. You know, the softer parts of me don't make me any less strong. You know, and I think that's what makes this piece connect for me. But also the repetition in the way that she used the repetition to juxtapose the different aspects of her strength, that's what kind of sticks out to me the most, you know. So.
Yeah, what's wild is, so this particular piece was published in 1978, right? And it feels like it could have been written in the future. It feels like it could have been written today. It feels like it could have been written yesterday. And for me, and clearly I've been reading this poem for a long time, right? Like this poem is part of me for, at least a decade now. I would say that it is different. It has been different in my life when I read it, but I think a couple of like big things that just stand out to me is this is a Black woman, right? Who is valuable, who values herself, who sees her value.
For sure.
And part of what she's saying is, I see you folks that don't value me, that sexualize me, and that even are fearful of me. and want to use that experience and that fear that they have of me to hold me in a certain regard.
Yeah.
And even though you do that, and I still dance, and I still harness the power of my Black womanness, which is magical, does it bother you? And if it does, too bad, because I'm going to rise above that. It's like Maya Angelou was like the precursor to Michelle Obama saying, when they go low, we go high. Right?
Yes.
That is this.
Facts. Oh my gosh.
I love this poem.
Yeah. You know, and it's funny because one of the things that I like about poetry, and we said this on another episode, one of the beautiful things about language is that language is a vehicle. Okay. Language is one of the building blocks of culture. Okay. Culture is also a vehicle. And what I like about vehicles is that they'll take you from destination A to B. Sometimes it's a physical destination, like one side of the room, next side of the room. But what makes it magical about words and language, and particularly culture, it's a vehicle for time travel. Like, I don't think anybody, I mean, let me ask you this question. Did you know the very first time that they were giving you this piece to study and learn and to develop, that it would take you to 17 years later with a different understanding? Did I know that one project at the Lee School when I was like 10 years old to write a cheesy limerick poem, it would literally revolutionize the way that I communicate to people 17 years, 18 years from now? I don't think they have any idea. Or maybe they did. And it's like when someone tells a joke with a wry smile and they're like, you'll get it later. I think that's the beauty of poetry. And I think that's why I'm so excited anytime I read any kind of poetry, prose, rhythmic, and we're going to get into all that later. So there's that. What I want to do is I want to check in with my people. First and foremost, welcome y'all for you guys just tuning into the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. I like the ability to be able to say this. We are your hosts, Lumiere D and Shari Davis. We're going to be here till about 2 a.m. And tonight's topic is poetry. We just talked about the definition of poetry and what it means to us. But if you're a latecomer, no sweat. Feel free to hop in, drop a comment, tell me what poetry means to you. We're going to read some more pieces. We have some guests queuing up, and I'm so excited. We're going to read a couple more things on Facebook. I think we're going to have our first guest come up and say a few things in a little bit, and I think we'll get back into it. So stay tuned. We're going to jam out to some lo-fi in the background, and then we'll get right back to it. All right? All right, y'all. Welcome, everyone, to the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. We are your hosts, Shari Davis and Lumiere D. Shari, I got to get your name on this screen so people can see who you are. As I get to that, like I said, this is nothing fancy, guys. It started as an experiment to reach out to my friends. I have over 5,000 friends on Facebook, but my schedule is crazy busy between all the things I do. And I just wanted to create a space where they can know that they can reach out and that I'll be here. Especially in the age of COVID-19 where we're all so separated, it's really important to find ways to connect with people. Just because you can't touch someone physically, that doesn't mean you can't reach out and touch them with a phone call, a text, a live stream, or whatever. And that's really all this project was. The funny thing is, people kept coming back, and even worse, like Lumiere, I listened to your show in the morning. I'm like, why? But as I said, since it is 12:41 in the morning and you should be sleeping, but since you're not, I'm glad that you're kicking it with us. And since you're kicking it here tonight, we're going to be talking about poetry. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to deviate a little bit from what we usually do. We're going to talk about poetry and what it means to us. But I have some friends of mine who are going to be hopping in and joining in and doing a little poetry for us. So you guys are in for a really good treat. I am so excited. So without further ado, I want to welcome our first guest. I'm like so nervous. Like she's coming on screen and I'm nervous. How does that even work out?
That's real love right there.
I be, you know. So, without further ado, I don't want to catch her while she's off guard and laughing. I want to welcome Miss Anna Masacote. What's up? Anna, can you say something into the mic just to make sure that we can hear you, that we got your audio's good?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too. Well, I'm excited for this conversation. So,
oh yeah. Oh man. So for those of you guys who don't know, as I said before, for you guys just tuning in, Ana Masacote has done amazing things in the Boston and Rhode Island salsa scene. But one of the things, well, actually, broader than that, the only things that I know of are Boston and Rhode Island. She's literally traveled the entire world doing all sorts of things. But I know y'all are on the internet, so y'all don't believe me anyways. But I'll let her tell her story. But before she does that, I'm gonna big her up just a little bit more. One of the ways, yeah. Well, listen, you're on the screen now. You can't say no. You can't back out. So there's that. I first noticed you, I think 3 years ago. I don't remember the song. I remember the outfit. It was like a brown kind of flowy leotard thing, and she was doing an Afro-Cuban kind of salsa dance. And I was like, she is getting it. Look at those curly hairs and the flow. And it was just like amazing, you know? And I had no idea who she was. I was like, all right, that's nice. I'm going to go dance now. Come to find out, there's a whole group of people that know her and dance exactly like her. And then find out years later that the coach that I'm dancing with now, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart.
Anara?
Right. Oh my God, I can't believe it. She's going to kill me. So that they are very good friends. So it's like I'm in great company. So I'm super excited. So, all right, I'm done now. You can now tell your story in your own humble words. And then we'll get into the poetry.
Amir gives the best introductions.
Yo, like no joke. I'm like, stop gassing me up. Like, oh my God. Yeah. So your mentor, right? Anara is my mentor and amazing friend. And so she's just very near and dear to my heart. So definitely love her. But yeah, I know when you're live, it's hard to remember everything. Also, I missed the get a mic memo because.
No, you're good. You're good. Oh man.
So, like, I need a special mic to make me sound good. Hold on a second.
You're good. Oh man. Like I said, every episode, I'm like, guys, this is nothing fancy. My commitment to you guys is two things. One is 100 episodes. This is episode 13. Technically, it's 14, but on episode 7, I counted it twice. We're not going to talk about that. It's episode 13. And then the second thing is that I promised to you guys that I would get better every week. It literally started with me on my laptop with the little camera. And then I was like, Amir, you're a photographer. Like, you got no excuse. You got to do better. And a month later, we got mics and HD cams and lights and a co-host and all that. Yeah.
Big things. Lumir got big dreams, man.
Hey,
making things happen, right?
Right. Anyway, so Anna, tell us your story.
Wow, that's a load of questions. Let's see. Long story short, I am a Chicana transplant from Dallas, Texas, born of 2 immigrant parents. And I have been dancing pretty much all my life. And one of the lesser known facts is that I love poetry. I started it when I was 16, and I started it as a way to really write my truth into the world. Mm-hmm. I felt that, as a queer girl, I didn't have support from family, from friends. And so that to me was my way to just use hidden meanings, but to tell my story and find the support in my own words. And so that became it for me. And I still have done it since then. I don't speak it out or perform it very much, although I'm doing that a little more in the last couple of years. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, I think, Shari, what are your thoughts? because I could talk all night, but you know.
I think, you know, Anna, what I love about what you just shared, it really makes me think about, you know, we talked earlier about gender. Well, not gender. We talked about expression and sometimes things that are hard to express. And for me, poetry has been an opportunity to really sit in an expression that can look very bold and visible, but at times very coded, something that you have to work with to understand. And it can feel like an experience. And it was definitely my experience with gender. And poetry was definitely a vehicle for me. And I think about so many other folks that poetry has been a vehicle for. And the one that comes to mind immediately is like James Baldwin. You think about someone like James Baldwin, who Black man, talk about fluidity and talk about living boldly and vibrantly in that fluidity, but using language to really bring people along and have people feel seen in his journey. Anyways, those are things that came up for me as you were talking, and it made me very excited.
I love that. And just that expression, I mean, everything that you're saying is just yes, all yes. But I also think that sometimes we want to be seen, but we don't see ourselves. And poetry sometimes does that for us. That definitely did that for me. And it allowed me to see myself. And then that made me more confident to be able to be seen.
That's real.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I think for me, the most exciting thing about poetry is it's like a secret superpower. Because if you because if you think about it, it's like you walk down the street. I could be, 5'8". I'm gonna say that like it's tall, because I could be 5'8", well built, and I'm like, and people will look at that. They're like, all right, word. I'm not gonna really approach him. Or I could be whatever the standard of beauty is in your country or your region. Like, okay, wow, I got the feels, But the person that's always unassuming, that just walks by you have no idea. But when they open their mouth, they're moving mountains. They're like commanding respect and attention. But more importantly, like they're changing lives. They're changing generations. How many times have you referenced a poem that you heard half of when you were like 10 years old that you didn't even realize that you're probably misquoting, and it changed the direction of your life?
Yeah.
One of those people.
Or just talk about movement in general, Lou. Like, think about the Asada chant. Think about, the protests that we've seen all across the country.
Sure.
Folks are bringing forward and channeling, right? Movement, elders, ancestors, individuals, and they're all bringing that through with words that are rhythmic, but also have deep meaning and connection to what the experience that they're engineering should be, what their hope is, what their pain, what their expression it looks like, and why they're there. It's like a rallying cry. And I think, just like Anna said earlier, like poetry is that individual, but also external community, like rallying cry. It can be, anyway.
It is.
Amen.
I feel that. So, without further ado, Miss Anna, I'm gonna put you on the spot. So. If you need a few seconds to get ready, do your woo saws and your ums and your ohms, let me know. But if you're ready to go,
so you want me to do a poem for you? Okay.
No. Don't do it for me. Do it for you.
I appreciate that.
I'm excited.
He's like, Shari's like, do it for me.
Yeah, no, but seriously, like, we're in a time with highs and lows, and I was having one of those days. So when you told me this was happening, I said, yes, I need me some poetry. So I appreciate that, doing it for me. So I have to stand up, because I usually I have to stand up for my poetry. I think I'm going to do Bad Hair, and I got to stand up for that one. So don't mind me. All right.
In the words of the Negro spiritual, stand and be counted, my sister. Stand. Give me 1 second. Let me just make sure I get you on this. All right, Anna, you are ready to go.
My hair is a living, breathing being. Her heartbeat, born of the blood of my indigenous ancestors. She roams free like a Mustang, untamed curls galloping wild, dancing to the skip of a mariachi beat, and everywhere she goes, she commands center stage. Her spirit, no longer caged behind the mental anguish of assimilation, the thought that different is bad, or bad is not good, that embracing a culture means rejecting another, or that identity is only welcome when conforming to your type of standard. But the problem is, my hair refuses to be standardized. This kinky, nappy, frizzy, tangle knotted mess of hair, too stubborn to be trained and regulated. And don't you try to iron out the inferiorities of my Medusa strands. There's no match for their kind of superpower. They mutate back to life, contorting and distorting, carving out their own space in this world, creating one that paints a tapestry of intersectionality somewhere between a song and a dance full of cumbias and gyrating hips where our native tongues purr sweet colors on the palettes of our raíces. And Señorita Grammar has an art studio for creativity. So made up words like parquear, chequear, textear, all have an existential home. A home where we define ourselves and I define me. This is my world. Chicana, brown, unapologetic, and proud of my bad hair.
Yes, let's go! Ruffa! Oh man. Yes, Anna, you gotta spit that truth. Shame the devil, my goodness.
That was awesome.
Oh, man. Yes. Oh,
I'm just happy to move. I'm just happy to move a little.
Oh my gosh, that is like one. I love Medusa hair. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Tell us about that piece. Tell us more about that piece.
Well, for that one, when I was a girl in middle school, I was transferred on a minority to majority transfer over to a school in a district that was mostly white kids.
Yeah.
And so when I was transferred, a lot of the kids would make you feel uncomfortable and unwanted, unwelcome. And, you constantly hear words like wetback. And of course, my parents are immigrants and you don't know how to respond to that. And so around that time, I wanted to try to look like the other kids. And I remember going home one day and, there were all these kids that, had straight hair. One of the girls said, "Oh, I ironed my hair today." So I went home and I pulled out an ironing board.
Oh, no. No.
I had bent my hair over and I was like, "Oh, no, iron my hair." Ended up with a burnt head of hair and not understanding what it meant. And it took me years later to understand that, what makes us different is what makes us powerful. But yeah, that was sort of my first exposure. So that idea of assimilation is where that was a battle I had to deal with when I was a youth.
Oh man, wow, I dig it. Shari, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess my question is, well, one, just thank you for sharing. I think that it's a powerful story and one that resonates. I don't have any hair now, but I used to have a lot of hair and it looked very similar to your hair. Like, so it's like, it's a little bit interesting to be, I'm like, wow, that's what I used to look like with hair. But one of the things I'm thinking about is something that you said, that you've actually been into poetry for a long time and it might surprise people. And you haven't shared a lot of your poetry, but you're doing more of that now. And so my question is, how does it feel when you share your poetry, and how does it feel when people to know that people are listening to you when you're sharing it?
Yo, that's a deep question, and it's a good question. I will say that for me, when I was a kid and I started dancing, I was always really, really, really shy. And so dancing helped me find a sense of expression and a form of being in my body, owning my body. And there was that sense of speaking through it. So poetry still felt like like I was suppressing my voice in a way by not speaking it openly. And so the reason why I started performing my poetry more was because I started realizing that the way that I write is a little bit more of a form of storytelling. Well, many of us, like we all write because we're writing our stories into existence. But if we don't speak them out into existence, we're allowing others to tell the story for us. And so the power behind that for me is just this feeling of not apologizing for taking up space and just being able to be present, which allows somebody else that may be going through those same issues to be able to be open with that too.
That's real.
Yeah.
Miss Anna, Shari, anything else before I transition?
No, Anna, thank you. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for, offering your thoughts. I just feel so honored.
Me too.
Anna,
appreciate you.
any words for your adoring fans or your new fans that are like, what? She poetized?
There are no.
I want more of your poetry.
They're going to be like, she poetized?
How?
No, well, you can find me at anamasacote.com. There's no fans. There's no such thing as fans for me. But yeah, you can follow my work. You ever want to be a part of it? I'm all for that. And I follow you, Lumiere, but I'm going to be following you, Shari. I hadn't followed you yet. So yeah.
Followers, thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. So Anna, feel free to stick around. We may do like a group chat if there's time later on. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you follow Miss Anna Masacote at anamasacote.com. That's it, yeah?
Yeah. Or anywhere on Instagram with the same name. Perfect. Instagram, Facebook, wherever.
Fantastic. All right. So
right now, I'm pulling it out. Make it happen.
So we're going to make sure that we get all of her social media information on the screen during our third shift shout outs. For those of you guys who are just joining, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. And today we're talking about poetry. We're going to jam out to some music and we're going to have our next guest on. Stay tuned. Get your lyrical chops ready or use the bathroom because that's also a thing too. And we'll be right back. All right. What's going on, y'all? It's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. We are your hosts, Shari Davis and Lumiere D. Make sure you check us out on the Instagram and the Facebook and all the interwebs. We're going to put that up. And tonight's topic is poetry. So we got some upbeat lo-fi in the background. We got some special guests, some hosts. We just had the one and only Miss Anna Masacote on. Talking her truth. Shari, what did you think? These are my peoples.
That's dope. You got some good people. That was great. Anna was amazing. People should totally check her out.
Yeah. So, like I said, one of the things I like about poetry is that it's like a secret superpower. You never know. Anybody could be a poet, What I'll do is in a little bit, I'm going to queue up one of my own pieces that kind of talks about appearance and things like that. But speaking of appearance, our next guest is someone that I've seen change and grow over these many years. And literally his appearance has changed. This poet is someone that I met when I was actually taking my forays into slam poetry. Like I said, when I started doing poetry, it was just a way for me to express myself in writing, to organize my thoughts. It wasn't until I was in college, really, that I found out that there was a slam poetry scene where people weren't only writing poems, but they were expressing them. And not only just were they expressing themselves, they were using it as a medium for performance, and people digged it. So that's dig it. Yeah, I apologize, but you get it. You know what I'm saying? And this next guest,
extraordinary.
Yeah, see, whatever. Anyways, without any further ado, I'm gonna bring on my homie D Ruff.
Oh, not D Ruff!
Hey, what's happening? Man.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Yeah.
I know, right? I didn't even know you cut your hair. Like, I'm like, oh my God.
There's a story there. But oh my God, what's up, family? I don't know if too, but we know each other. That's fam right there. That's awesome.
For real.
Connect.
Oh man. So as usual, I gotta big you up because you're on the screen, and that's one of the things I do. So my buddy D Ruff, I'll never forget it. The first time, so there was a really amazing poet in the Boston slam scene. I don't know if she poetizes anymore as she used to. Her name was Melissa Green, an amazing poet. And, I had the opportunity to roll with her to a couple of shows when she was slamming really heavy in Boston, and we went to, what was the name of the spot that's now the Cuba place? It's right on Mass Ave.
Verve Lounge.
Verve. Okay, yeah. So there's a restaurant that used to be called Verve Lounge, and they would have us poetry slam. I think it was Wednesdays or something. And Melissa, she was going there all the time, and so we had went together. And she's like, "Oh, this dude that's going on right now, he's nice. Pay attention." I'm like, "All right, word." He had like these short little dreads, had this oversized striped shirt, and I'm like, "All right, word. Skinny dude doing his thing." Now, I say skinny because that was also part of his thing. I'm not body shaming. It's fine. You know what I mean? We've all been, a little on the thinner side, and that's cool. And so, as I was told, I sat down and I shut up and I listened. I was like, "Yo, Melissa, he's nice." So, ladies and gentlemen, shout outs to D Ruff. So, D, tell the people your story. Tell them where you are, where you from, and all that.
All right, so I am D Ruff, poet born and raised out of Roxbury, Massachusetts. I've been doing this poetry shit since first grade. I am currently in that, like, I've been I am co-host of an open mic called the If You Can Feel It, You Can Speak It open mic, and we've been up and running for almost 11 years now. November will be our 11-year anniversary. Wow. So now, like, since the pandemic, of course, like, everything has kind of changed up. So we had to switch formats and be virtual. So we do things like every Thursday. So I'm actually coming from my open mic to y'all right now. So, like, this is very dope. So so man.
The funniest thing is, like, I remember, so for those of you guys who don't know, I'm a photographer. I've been doing photography for over a decade. One of the places that I used to, or one of the arenas that I used to do a lot of my photography was in the event space. So clubs, concert, nightlife, you name it. And there was one organizer. Her name was Alaska Boston. Shout outs to Ola.
Yeah, exactly. Still doing big things too.
Yeah, she's one of those people that was like, "I'm gonna keep it quiet, but when you see me, you're gonna see me." So definitely shout outs to Ola. I'm gonna make sure we give her a shout out during our third shift. But I remember she had an event, and we were both attending that event. And like, "Hey, yo, Lemire, so I don't know how it's gonna work out, but there's this event. It's a spoken word event that they kind of want me to co-host. Here's the flyer. I haven't done it yet, but like, yo, are you available to take pictures?" I wasn't because the schedule was busy, but I was like, "All right, cool." I disappeared from the scene for a good 3 years. I come back, and it's like, "Well, man, how you do?"
Yeah.
So never attended the If You Can Feel It, You Can Speak It open mic. It is a great inclusive space, safe space, where you can go speak your truth. You can feel welcomed. You can feel encouraged. You can feel empowered. So, D, before we get off, either now or later, make sure you give me all the info because I want to shout you guys out and point people your way.
Definitely will. And yeah, man. That's been my journey. I mean, my journey is definitely longer. Father definitely wrote my book and was an author of Saying on 94, Tales from a Misguided Soul, when it was on like Amazon and all that other stuff. I have little projects here and there that are going to end up coming out soon that I'm really, really excited about. And I'm creative director of Boston Pulse Poetry, which is a program that I do with mostly centered around like teenagers and those from middle school to high school, really teaching them or not even teaching them, really mentoring them around spoken word and really finding their voice. And if it isn't through spoken word, then we find out what that art is to help amplify their voice and whatever that is. So like that's what pretty much I've been doing
Cool.
for a while.
Very cool. Very cool.
Nope.
Shari, you got anything for Mr. D?
No, I got a question, but I would love to hear your piece first. My question, just to give you a sense of it, and the reason why I'm asking is because I've been to your event so many times, like a lot, and I loved it. And one of the things that I experience when I try to invite folks into poetry space is that they have a lot of anxiety, and I imagine that you've managed that and experienced that a bunch. And so my question, and I'm at the edge of my seat to hear your piece, right? But my question is, what do you kind of tell folks when they're trying to figure out how to show up in an open mic space so that they can feel comfortable? Because it's different. It definitely is. There's a culture. And for people that don't know, how can they get with the program?
Fair. So do you want me to do my piece first, or do you want me to answer first?
I think it's up to you. You can decide.
Cause like, okay, cause then it'll lead into the. I guess it'll kind of lead into the piece. Hey, so when doing this, and I've done workshops with adults as well. When telling adults to write in general, or at least start writing, one of the major things that I say is don't write as if you're writing for someone, because you're not. You're just doing this for yourself. It's for your eyes, it's for your heart, it's for your ears, it's for your being. So what are you hiding from? Like, if you can't write for you and your eyes, then who are you really hiding from? And then after that, like, it's like, is this particular piece something that you want to present to the world? If it's not, that is perfectly all right. That is also okay. You don't have to do that. And that's why I really, really enjoy, and I'm really, really blessed to have the space that I've been given. Because then with the Feel It, Speak It mic and the community and the movement, we've told people, you don't have to be an artist to come bless our space. You can literally come up there for 4 or 5 minutes, talk about your day, and everybody will listen. Everybody will give you the love and give you this respect. Like, you don't have to present, like, in that usually starts that motor, because for some reason, no matter what, once you get on that stage and people receive you, like, and genuinely receive you, that's a different buzz than actually trying to go up there and impress people. If you're not going up there to impress anybody and you just want to vent to a group of folks that know that love and will appreciate you and will give you that upliftment later on, like, it's a different buzz. So that's what usually starts what I call the gateway. It's usually the gateway drug. Like, haha, you're in there now. Now you know how it feels to be on the stage and get the love and da 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 da. So that's usually how I present it to folks whenever going on to the mic.
No, thank you. That's real. And I didn't know that this was going to be a segue, but here we are.
See, so this piece, I've been really working on this piece as of recently now. So just work with me, people. This is new.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, for all of my nocturnals, third shifters, and people who otherwise should be sleeping at 1:13 in the morning, what do I always say? This is an experiment. Nothing fancy here. Okay, this is a safe space. I don't give trigger warnings because of the Second Amendment, but you can still feel safe to do your thing. All right. The only thing I'm going to say is, give me a second so I can check the mic so I can make sure you got your space.
There you go. Fair enough.
And for those of you guys that are just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. Tonight's topic is poetry. And we got our main man, D Ruff, getting ready to spit his truth. So we're going to set up the mic. Shari, I'm going to mute you out a little bit. And then D, once I get off the screen, you are good to go. All right, all right, all right. And D Ruff, we're gonna have you.
All right. So usually in between my pieces, so that way it's not that long, awkward, poetic silence. Uh, Whenever I say if you can feel it, I would love for you guys to reply back, you can speak it, and say it one that slowly because there might be an echo where y'all are at. And two, say it like y'all mean it because why not, right? Um, I will give like somewhat of a warning because like I know it's late hours, but it's just natural to me to do so. Um, for those, this piece is going to deal with a lot of black trauma, a lot of black death, rape, and a lot of the current events that are happening now. So, in case you guys do want to step away, need you catch yourself, collect yourself before you embrace yourself for this piece. Definitely give yourself some time. Wait a second. All right. So, if you can feel it, okay. And here we are again, 150 days since Breonna Taylor was murdered. A black female EMT worker and aspiring nurse who was sleeping with her boyfriend Kenneth when they soon heard a loud bang and soon were assaulted. Kenneth, after firing a warning shot at whom he believed were intruders, was injured, and Brianna killed in her home, and the officers of this botched raid roam free. And the NFL, the nation, expects black men to sing and be full of faith, expects black children to sing death and black mothers to be full of grace, sing and centralize the narrative how pacified a black uprising and forget black women still have a fight. Exhaust our energy because how else can white America douse a revolution's fire? They thought painting over a bloody street can please the pleading hands and be retribution for slaying Sandra Bland in their custody, have us clap, rap, and cheer at new laws named after our brutalized queens who while their assailants roam free. We need to be more Kenneth, demand and defend, amplify their voices without taking their spotlight, believe black women, and stop waiting to be admired. Because black women have fought alone, having to decide between being killed, revealing the truth, or died to keep it concealed, either calling out names or being called out of their name. And we haven't been shit masquerading as safety, family, friends, professionals, as promoters, photographers, artists, taking advantage of vulnerability and beauty, using status to discredit facts and putting out work to cover our tracks. 19-year-old Toyin told Twitter her rate. It was killed the same day by a black man who should have been more Kenneth and less officer. Because yes, black men, we're going through struggles unimaginable. And these black women have loved us furiously, rose their voices fearlessly, yet we are quick to police their cries and our undertones. We've been tone deaf too. Why don't you call the police or call him out? We'll say, you're being too dramatic. What were you wearing? What ass pussy got one woman shot and the other cheated on? Will cry, reply, retort, troll. Hey, ma, you're more beautiful when you smile. Does it sound familiar? How toxicity can speak with the same diction, how the condescension can reek of recycling trauma that we got to deal with because the blood we're treading along our weary feet is leading footprints back to those white businesses. So that's why they send out support, send out those condolences and I'm sorry's, like emails and DMs, and like these laws, they address the tears, but not the reasons they were shed, pulling ways to blame victims and justify misogyny that the black men keep. And then the NBA has the nerves to suggest what's appropriate to say. Even when black men try, standing together is only appropriate to be seen when the white bottom line benefits. So we must lift every Black voice and say, arrest the murderers of Breonna Taylor, Ryan Milton, and the countless women and Black women and trans gone too soon, yet receive justice too late. These aren't prayers to your oppressive gods. We're calling for our warriors, our ancestors fight, to give us some light and give us some insight and give us might, because elite white America expects songs full of hope, full of faith. But that's not true to our ancestors, our bloody footprints, or our native lands, where we have to return the ghost of our dead days, months, even years after receiving retribution, just so we can sing. Lift every voice and sing. If you can feel it, you can speak it.
You can speak it. Shout out to the man, D Ruff.
What a blessing. Thank you.
My man.
Thank you so much.
I take it. Yeah, man.
Yeah, so that's about the times and stuff like that. I've been listening in on y'all's conversation about poetry and how, different things and how it's a super ability, and it is. It's definitely it's definitely a super ability. It's definitely a super talent, and I definitely I guess I can speak to the humbleness of it when I don't realize how much of a superpower it is. I've always been able to write something. Sometimes I've been able to write at a drop of a hat. Now that I'm older, it's not that easy anymore. But that there is a skill, and being able to memorize it and then bring all the feeling out and be able to hone all those emotions in a certain set, for a certain time, to be vulnerable constantly, is a superpower. So like, thank you for definitely mentioning that, and I definitely want to share that sentiment as well with all artists, because we are able to turn to really break diamonds out of rocks, because we're definitely given a lot of difficult situations and a lot of walls that we have to climb and a lot of obstacles that we have to overcome, and through our art we're always able to shine what growth and what that experience is at the end of the day. And to be able to hone all of that is a beautiful thing. So to all my creators, all my entrepreneurs, all my artists, I love you guys, and I really appreciate you guys for continuing to provide a space, especially in the times that we're in. I know it's difficult because we all need something to lean on. But to be able to lean on each other, to be able to provide space for people to lean on each other and know that they're not alone, like, thank you. And yeah.
That's right.
Yo, D, I just got one more burning question for you. It's burning. So my one thing that I really appreciated about your piece, and just about you in general, is the way that you center some of the world's historically excluded people. And those people are Black women. Sometimes it could be members of the migrant community. In your most recent piece, you talked about trans women, Black trans women, right? If you want to talk about folks that experience the most barriers, right, on Earth, these are some of the examples. And one thing that I find when we start talking about art is that we as a people, as a society, right, we're evolving, we're growing. And as individuals, when we start to step into these topics and start to challenge our own beliefs and then bring them into public space, there's a moment that could result in harm. Before you offered your piece, you gave a warning. You said, look, this is what I'm going to talk about, and if you need to step away, please do so. I really appreciate that. Thank you for modeling. But my question is, how do you coach poets, or yourself even, when there's something that happens that doesn't go right, it goes wrong? And by go wrong, I mean someone may express something that does cause harm, even if they gave that warning at the beginning. And I wonder what you offer to folks that are evolving and growing and trying to manage that, because I think that's a fear that a lot of people have. And I imagine that you've had that conversation before, and I wonder if you have any advice for folks out there that are thinking about that.
Um, I love my space for this. So one of the things at the mic that we say is we always say that we're a working space, right? Because safety is relative. We can't necessarily guarantee safety even in this virtual world, because people like to, Zoom bomb and all this other stuff, right? So like we say that we're a working space, and with that we say that we are a working community that is trying to make sure that everybody is included, everybody's voice is heard, everybody's concerns are listened to and definitely taken into consideration and definitely spoken on. So with that, that's one of the things that I also say, that you make sure that the space that you're going to is a space that you feel safe in, and at the same time make sure your peace isn't one of those assaultive pieces, because we have those, right? We have those angry moments where we're just like, fuck you and everything that you're about. And like everybody feels those, right? But you don't want to go into spaces where you know that this isn't giving something to this community. It's actually taking away from something. You know what I'm saying? Like you're giving anger, you're giving something negative that you don't want to necessarily bring into this space of healing. So when I say to people, I'm like, yes, definitely bring have certain pieces with friends, with family, and artistic friends as well, because like, yes, close friends and family will definitely give you the utmost honesty, but there are also some favoritism there. Like they'll definitely give you a little bias, like, oh baby, that was great, knowing in your heart like something's wrong. Like I need some definite feedback, constructive feedback on this. So that's what I tell people. Definitely go to spaces and to people that you trust and you love, and that have also shown you that they can give you what it is that you need, not so much what you want, but really what it is that you need in order to progress and move forward with the message that it is that you want to present. Because there is it's taken me a while to find ways to actually artistically argue points without, one, feeling like I'm excluding anybody, or two, making it sound like my trauma trumps everybody else's. Because that's not fair, that's not true. And so to make sure that everybody's voices is heard, or at least making sure that the voices that I am hearing are feeling heard, I just do my best to bring up a conversation. And then after that, if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards, I'll talk to you guys off stage, outside, and that's really how the conversations have been. Nothing violent has ever happened or transpired. People have always had conversations in our space whenever that has come up, when people have felt offended, or there was something that was taken the wrong way, or there was a miscommunication or tone, whatever it was, there was always a conversation about it that then led to a lesson down the road. So that's always how it's been at the mic. So I've definitely always appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm part of what I'm hearing you say too is, there's an opportunity for like workshopping, and people should do that, right? Like getting on the stage and being vulnerable is an invitation, and it's wonderful and it's sacred, and it's okay to workshop before you get there, right? And I think the second thing that I'm really taking away from what you're saying is something about consent, right? There's consent to being in the space, but there's also making sure that you have the consent of others, right? To move certain ways. And then again, that workshopping comes back. There's work to do here. If you're going to be in this space, challenging these things in this way, and you want to do it publicly, it's one thing to write in your journal and keep it at home. It's another thing to be in space with community, even if it's vulnerable. So D, thank you for your thoughts, man. I so appreciate it.
Thank you guys for the space and this is awesome. This has been like incredible. Yes. This is great to see some familiar faces and be up here all nocturnal and whatnot.
Hey, listen, we're gonna be here Mondays, and technically it's kind of Sunday into Monday and Thursday into Fridays. From we might experiment doing a 12:30 to 2:30 because I mean apparently people sleep because that's a thing that people do.
You
But
know,
we'll give you all the details for all the social media. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna get into our third shift shoutouts because y'all know I love giving love. Then we're gonna have Miss Anna back on, have D on, have a little chit chat about some funny poetry things. One of our listeners is a little bashful, so I'm gonna read one of her pieces. I'll do one of my pieces, and then we out. But until then, yeah. Until then, jam out to some music with the lo-fi. I'll handle some business, and then we'll be back. And for those of you guys just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. We're streaming it, and you're here because you got nothing better else to do, but that's cool. We still love it. All right, y'all. What's going on? For those of you guys just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. I am your host, Lemire D, and I am with your other host, Miss Shari Davis. What's up?
What's up?
Shari, I'm gonna be like excited to like shout you out on the mic for at least 3 weeks. So just like get used to it and bear with me because that's life, you know.
I didn't expect anything less.
Exactly. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the gems that we talked about on the friendship episode. If you want to be a really good friend to your friends, be who you're supposed to be. Okay? If you be who you're supposed to be, that relationship will be able to experience its heights. Don't be somebody's friend and like kiss their butt all the time. Don't be their friend and be that tough love friend. You need that. No. Be who you're supposed to be. If you gotta give them the tough love, punch them in the face and then give them a hug. You know, if you're that soft and squishy one, give them a hug, but make sure you turn your head to the side because of COVID. That's fine. But whatever lane that you're supposed to play it to the fullest. People know I'm hype, I'm excitable, but I'm kind of an a-hole, but I love people. I'm like the a-hole with a heart of gold and bacon, you know, so that's how that is. So I say all that to say this, that for the next couple of weeks, while Shari gets on here, you'd be like, why is he so excited? Doesn't he know that she's already there? It's the thing. Speaking of spreading love and joy, this is my favorite part of the night, guys. It's the part where we show the love to the people that we just, I don't know. Do you need a reason to shout people out? I guess not. We call it third shift shoutouts. It's actually not topic number 4 because we've been talking about poetry. We're just gonna take off that number, and I made a boo boo. And this is a working space, y'all. No judgment. I got that from my buddy D Ruff. So this is the part where we shout out some amazing people, and so we're gonna get that started with Miss Anna Masacote. This is not Anna Masacote. So, actually, can we start with us? First off, shout outs to the If You Stream It podcast. We on Instagram, y'all. We official. We only got 2 Woo! That's right. So make sure you guys follow us at Instagram.com/If You Stream It podcast. We made it easy. All the social medias, it's /If You Stream It podcast. So make sure you follow us. We're going to do more updates. All the poets that you heard tonight will be on there, their pieces, and we'll do all the proper social media things with that. So make sure you hop on that. Next, we have Miss Anna. Let me see if I'm spelling this right. Masacote. Yes, perfect. Next, we have the one and only Miss Anna Masacote. Follow, definitely. For those of you guys who don't know who she is, Anna Masacote is an amazing I'm like shouting and doing all this stuff and not even putting it on the screen. There we go. All right, there we go. This makes more sense. For those of you guys who don't know who Miss Anna Masacote is, she is an amazing dance instructor, but she does so much more than that. As we found out tonight, she is an amazing poet. So make sure you follow her on Instagram. You can also check her out at anamasacote.com. That's ANAMASACOTE.com. And you'll be able to find all of her social media info there. So please make sure you follow her and shout her out, show her some love. The next person we're going to show some love to is my main man, Mr. D Ruff. So that's going to be D_RUFF on Instagram. Let's pull it up. Let's see what he's got. That's not Mr. D Ruff, I don't think. That's not Sylvester. No, that's D Ruff 3. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is D_RUFF3. So D_RUFF, the number 3. Follow. D Ruff is an amazing poet. He's an author. He is also a leader in the Boston poetry scene. Make sure you follow him. Check out all the wonderful things that he is doing. And if you check us out on the If You Stream It podcast on Instagram, you'll be able to hear his piece again. It was amazing. One of the last people that I want to shout out is Miss Anita D. You can follow her on Instagram at Anita D Poetry. She's an amazing female poet. We met in college, and since we met in college, she has gone on to be number 3 in the world for slam poetry. So she's been doing it big. Recently, she just released a book called And the Psych Ward Says. It's based off of a poem of the same title. And what I want to do is, before we get into our conversation with our poets, I want to see if I can play that for you guys because it's an amazing piece. I had the pleasure of hosting her at an open mic last year. Hopefully, depending on how COVID goes, we'll be able to do the same thing again. But yeah, so without further ado, I'm going to cue up that piece. We're going to play it, and then we're going to get into some more funky poem stuff. As per usual, just a quick trigger warning. This poem deals with mental health. If mental health is triggering for you, or things that have to do with psych ward are triggering, this is probably the best time to step away, tune into something else for another 3 minutes, and then join us back. I did ask her permission before we played it. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here with us live. So I'm going to play it, and we're going to get into it. Here we go.
And the psych ward says, there is no need to worry. This asylum was built to help you. And just like the straps on the stretcher you rolled in on, we are going to keep you safe and secured. Notice the locked doors and all the cameras perched in the corners like hawks. You'll be watching, but this is all for you and your well-being. You are sick, anxious, depressed, a danger to yourself. The state told us to hold you for 72 hours, but if you sign this paper, we can pretend your stay here this weekend is voluntary. Friday morning, you will be woken up by strangers in white coats and clipboards. You will be asked again and again and again about why and how you want to kill yourself. Be honest. Remember, you are only here for 3 days, so take advantage of the 5 to 10 minutes you have with the doctor. But understand, he has a list of patients as long as his pay stub, so you won't be receiving any actual therapy sessions while you're here, but we will recommend them as treatment for after we let you out. Until then, we want you to be comfortable, so sit back, enjoy the plastic furniture and coloring books. We have old radios with no antenna, but the static is still loud enough to drown out the sound of the woman screaming in 2B. That's just Cindy. She just does that sometimes. Well, she didn't always, but she does now, and until we can find the right medication, we are going to keep helping her. Just like we want to keep helping you. If only you let us. It's Monday morning, and you haven't even tried the meds yet. You're still lying to us about holding the knife to your arm like your parents haven't already told us everything. Just be honest and let us help you. Did I mention that the state only recognizes the existence of psychiatric patients Monday through Friday? Meaning, the past 48 hours you spent here didn't even count. Meaning, we still have time for a breakthrough or a breakdown. This is a good thing. This means we still have time to help you. And I can see that you're getting upset, but do not walk away from me with tears streaming and knuckles buried in palms. That type of body language is aggressive, and we might have to do something about that. A sedative, maybe diazepam perhaps. I don't think being alone is best for you right now. Maybe you should spend time with the other patients. Get to know how they got here. Listen to them when they tell you you got lucky getting placed in this psych ward. We are one of the good ones, and we want you to stay here. We figure if we keep you long enough, maybe you'll eventually start to fit in, or maybe if we keep you locked up, you will eventually start to act out, and we will be right here, waiting to prescribe you something, to label you with a diagnosis. We didn't cause your social anxiety. We only heightened what was already there. We just want to see you reach your full potential as a patient. We told you, this asylum was built to help you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not following Miss Anita D on every social media platform that's available, you got to. Oh man, Shari. So like, let me remove this here so I can see your lovely face. Like, literally speechless every time I hear that piece. Like, literally speechless every single time I hear that piece. It is like breathtaking, you know? And it's not just the content that's there, but it's like the way it's put together, but I don't know. There's just something about it, you know?
Yeah, it's visceral. You know, I think it's visceral. You have so many reactions, like watching and listening to that piece. There are things that I feel in my body. But also listening to the way that it's delivered, observing the way that it's delivered, it's clear that there are things felt, right, in Anita's body. And I that's one of the things that just really struck me, you know, about that. The feeling constricted, feeling contained. And there wasn't a whole lot of gesturing, right? But you really got a sense of that.
Oh man. It's just
amazing.
Amazing. Like, I don't know. So for those of you guys who just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. We are your hosts, Lemire D and Miss Shari Davis. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I told you I was going to get better with every episode. And how much better can you get when your co-host is Miss Shari Davis? So shout out to her. I'm going to be excited for at least 4 episodes because she's amazing. But like I said, tonight we're talking about poetry, what it means to you, what it means in the actual sense of poetry. We're reading some poems. We're deviating a little bit from our usual thing, but I mean, why not? You know, feel free to stay as long as you like, stay as short as you like. If you have a poem that you want to read, feel free to do so. Send me a message and I'll get you on the screen. If you want to just comment and say what's up, what's up? So it's been a while. I don't want to neglect our people. I want to shout out to Mr. Helder Rosa. He says he knows us from different places. Do you know Helder?
Helder Rosa. Yeah. I'm trying to like zoom in on this picture.
Exactly.
Hey.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What's going on?
Yeah. Helder so one thing that I like about Helder is he's always been a cool dude. You know what I mean? When we met in college, we didn't cross paths all the time. Like, we never really hung out all the time. We had mutual friends that would overlap. But one of the things that I loved about Helder is just like, he always was true to himself. And like the few times that we had deep conversations, one of the conversations we were riding back home, we were getting a ride from, I think it was his older brother, his older cousin. And Helder is Cape Verdean. I'm pretty sure I got that right. Helder's Cape Verdean. And they were talking about the spelling of his name. And the conversation was, no, make sure they put that accent in your name. Make sure that they don't take that out, you know, and literally put that respect on my name, you know. And it's like, the reason why I found that so impactful is because, like, anytime I think of Helder, like, that's the thought that sticks out, you know. And so my name is Lemire de Rizière. It's a French name spelled differently, you know, but it's been mispronounced a ton of times. But every time people try to anglicize it or make fun of it or whatever, you know, I remember that one conversation. And the funny thing is, it's like, that in itself is poetry. You know what I mean? He summarized, have self-respect, self-worth, value where you came for in one phrase. Make sure they keep the accent in. You know what I mean? Like, that in itself is what poetry is. It's that vehicle. It's that way of describing something in a way that sounds beautiful, but it's meaningful and it's impactful, you know? So there's that. Actually, he knows D-Ruff too. I mean, well, Helder, you should just come on. Apparently you know the whole crowd.
Where's your piece?
I know, right? Helder, where's your piece? Also want to give a shout out to Miss Kelly B. For those of you guys who don't know, Kelly is an amazing person. She's my WCW, but that's besides the point. She's also a fantastic dancer, an amazing person. One thing I really admire about Kelly is her drive. Um, from the time that I met her on the salsa scene till now, she's just like everything that you see about her is making moves forward. But if you talk to her, she's super humble, super chill, you know. She was also my dance partner when we were teaching bachata pre-COVID. One of my favorite people to dance with. So, Kelly, we got to dance sometime soon. Stop making excuses. I mean, I guess a global pandemic, yeah, whatever. But once that's over, all bets are off. So there's that. What I want to do is I want to invite our guests back on. So we have a little chit chat about our poetry thing. So I'm gonna get Miss Anna Masacote back on and Mr. D Ruff. Not well. I mean, you guys have been here the whole time, so welcome and howdy. So a couple funny things about poetry. One of the things that I find, especially in regards to poetry, is that I can never find a pen when I got something that's really coming. Have you ever had that experience where it's like, whatever you're doing, you're driving, you're thinking, you're walking, whatever, and it's like you feel like a poem is coming and you just can't capture it? Has that ever happened to either of you guys or ladies?
Lou, I'm like personally, I'm a notebook junkie, right? I'm not a famous poet like Anna and D Ruff, but I'm a notebook junkie. Like I'm surrounded by notebooks constantly. I don't go very far without one, but I do often have a hard time finding a pen. That's real. I feel that. Do you, Anna? Do you feel that sometimes?
I do. I type a lot of things in my notes, and I try to journal every night or every few nights if I get behind. And sometimes those journals turn into poems, but sometimes in the moment, you have something coming and you can't put that down, and then later on you're like, fuck. But maybe it was just for that moment. Maybe it was just for that moment, and it wasn't meant to be written.
That's real. That's real. That thing that happens when you're laying down or doing something, and it's that fleeting thought that feels so good and is so good, and maybe that's all it was ever supposed to be. I wonder. Did you get a chance to hear the Anita D's piece that we just listened to?
Yeah, I've been hearing Anita a while. Well, Anita and D Ruff too. Like I'd heard them before, and they're just like speechless always. Yeah.
I was wondering, Lou and I talked a little bit about Anita's piece and what it felt like to listen to it. And you've been listening to Anita's work for a little while, and I was curious, like, for pieces like that do have, people can feel a lot of things. I guess my question is, for you when you're listening, are there things that you do to kind of remain balanced? Or as a listener, do you feel all the things on that journey as a listener of poetry?
Honestly, well, for me, I always appreciate trigger warnings, and I always give them if there's something in mind. I know I have one poem in particular that I know I always need to give a trigger warning for before doing it, because I think that that's just being respectful of the space and the place that people are in, and inviting them to give consent for that as well. And so I think for me, when I hear something like that, I definitely take it in. I actually, if it's something that I've been given a trigger warning for, I make that decision before listening to it if I want to stay, and I will meditate. I will through the poem and focus on what I'm hearing, and I always feel it in my body, but I don't hold it. So it's sort of like working on holding space but not holding it in. And I think that that's important. And in all honesty, I think that in many ways, we have to be able to listen just as much as we give. And so I think that that's also just a matter of respect. But if I'm in a place where I'm not feeling well, and like D Ruff said, if you be good to yourself. You have to know where you're at. And if you need to step away, I do step away. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I wonder, Lumiere, as we sit with our precious time in the middle of the night with Anna, if you have any additional thoughts or questions. But I also want to acknowledge I'm dying, Lumiere, to hear your piece, like dying. I'm like,
I was debating. I'm like, I don't even know. I feel like
no, I need it. It's necessary. It's like really necessary.
One of the things like, I feel like, let me put it like this. The majority of the time that I spend not in front of people, I spend it alone. And the good thing about that is it's causing me to be very introspective. And I'm talking for, I would say, the past maybe 9 years, I'd spend like 80% of my day alone, whether that's working in solar because I'm a solar consultant, whether that's editing photos, or whether that's as a dancer. Like, I spend large chunks of my time alone, And one of the things that poetry has helped me do is it's helped me organize my thoughts, but it's also helped me see the world in a different view. So one of the things that's typical for people who work in the trades, once you're in that newbie phase, you start to see your trade everywhere. So like if you want to buy a Mercedes, what car do you see everywhere? Mercedes, Mercedes, Mercedes. You're working on roofs everywhere. You're just looking up like, oh, that's a good roof. That's a bad. It's like everywhere. And one thing that poetry has done for me, it's like, it's allowed me to see the beauty in the ugliest of situations, And it's like, because poetry will sneak up on you, Poetry doesn't always have to come with rhyming bars and rhyming words. And it's like, because I've had poetry in my life for so long, I'm reminded of poetry that I forgot, that reminds me of feelings that I forgot, that tell me that in this present moment, I need to see the world in a different way. And so like, just being in this space alone in the middle of the night, it reminds me that we used to do, Shari, we used to be up to the middle of the night writing poems back and forth. And so it's like, it's I can't find the words, because it's like, I'm so grateful that we're in the middle of a global pandemic. People are literally dying, losing jobs, talking about the president, talking about all this. And here I am. First off, I get to chill with 3 amazing people that like I never get a chance to see, but all 3 people that I hold in like super high regard. Like, how else would I be able to get all 3 of you guys in one spot in the middle of the night at 1:56 a.m.? Because of this one little thing called poetry that we all have in common. Like, it's amazing to me, But the other thing is, it's just like, I think with poetry, it gives us that fearlessness to don't be afraid to be inspired. I feel like, let's take this podcast, for example. Literally speaking, I was on the computer. I was like, you know what? It's 1:00. You guys keep saying I'm inaccessible. I'm going to get on the camera. If you guys show up, as long as people keep commenting, I'm going to sit here. And I was on here till 3:30 a.m. the first night. And it was terrible. I didn't know I had no camera. I didn't even know how but people kept coming. I'm like, that's inspiring, And so then I spent a lot of money on gear and stuff and research, and I did all, and they're like, Lumiere, why are you doing this? I'm like, well, why not? I got an inspiration. Why not run with it? It's like, it's okay to not be mediocre. And I was telling this to Shari, and again, no disrespect to anyone, but there is no void of mediocre content on the internet. You don't need to add to it. If you're going to do something, be excellent, or die trying to be excellent. Because guess what? If you push for it, you're probably going to get it. The funny thing is, excellence is not really expensive. There's just a whole lot of people who don't want to do it. Now, and this might be giving it away. And no, actually, I'm going to give this away. Ladies and gentlemen, and for all you people who are listening out in the interwebs, most websites will cost you $10. That's 2 number 3s at McDonald's. That's 2 4 for 4s plus that extra Frosty at Wendy's because, you know, I'm fat. I need that extra. It's not expensive at all. But guess what? Guess what? When you walk up to someone, whether you're an underwater basket weaver, a photographer, a plumber, or whatever, they say, oh, you're an underwater basket weaving plumber. Fantastic. Do you have a website? If you say yes, you're more likely to get that business than not. Your website could be terrible. It could be empty. It could be a landing page. But because you have a .com with your name in it, people will give you money. And I say all that to say this. Don't be afraid to be inspired because you don't know where the inspiration is going to take you. But the more important thing is you don't know who you're going to inspire. Funny thing about this podcast is I have a buddy of mine who's a videographer. Long story short, we spent summer, we recorded one project, didn't happen. It's because of him. I said, I'm never going to start another project that I'm not going to finish because he was an amazing videographer and now moved out of the state. So now that even if I want to shoot an awesome dance video, he's in Louisiana. Now it costs me a plane ticket and 8 hours round trip to video with him. Whereas the price of being excellent was hanging out with him for 8 hours in a park. Never going to make that mistake again. And he was here last week. And you know what he said? Hey, Lemire, I like what you're doing. I see these big things. I'm like, you don't know that you're the reason why I'm doing this. You have no idea. He's sitting here, not wallowing. Shout outs to my buddy D, but he's like searching himself. He's like looking for because he just moved. And he's looking for a way to be an inspiration. I'm like, yo, you can't uninspire me. And that's the other thing about poetry. It's like, it's about poetry and it's also about life. And it's also about chasing your dreams and being excellent. You can't uninspire people. Here's the thing. If I inspire you or you inspire me, you've already changed my life, right? I'm now going to move, do things different because I'm inspired. Now, let's say I find out that you're a jerk and you're complete like someone I don't want to be inspired by. Guess what? If I now say, oh, you're a jerk, I don't like you, I'm going to be uninspire you. I'm going to change my life. Well, guess what? I've now changed my life because of you twice. So that inspiration still works. But if I'm like, you know what? You're a jerk, but you were on something when you weren't a jerk. I'm going to keep this road and take it further. I'm still inspired. So guess what? No matter what level it is, once you inspire someone, it's too late. They're already inspired. So guess what? Don't be afraid to inspire someone. Just do it. It's going to work out either way. Yes? So without further ado, I'm going to read my piece and then we're going to close with a piece from one of our guests. And then I think that's it. It is the witching hour. It's 2:01. I know I said I'd finish at 2, but you know, it's not that I lie. I just, I update. Yes, this is an update. I'm going to use this piece called City of Dreams. I've done this piece before on this podcast, but I like it. So we'll do it again. As I walk through the inner city neighborhoods late at night, all I seem to see and hear amidst the fast cars, the sirens, and the streetlights is a field of dreams, where children whisper visions into the wind with enough power to move mountains the size of towers as easily as flowers in the breeze. Yet, because of where they're from, capability has been reduced to a cap on their ability. And as I look at the place that some call a ghetto, I wish that I could scream, come ghetto dream. Get them for cheap. Get them for free. The desire to aspire for better is not a disease, but the hood is just like Neverland. It only exists if you believe. They sprinkle the dust over our nose so we keep our heads down when we sneeze and keep our eyes from reaching our truest possibilities. They call it Neverland because they never really want you to leave. And they say if you're flying, you'll never land because there's nothing left in these trees. So instead of aiming high to be the best that we can be, we reach for the needle to help us prove that this dream is a reality. We prick ourselves with pain, prejudice, and poverty till we bleed or we scream, leaving holes inside our arms, inside our chests, and inside our families. And I know society doesn't help to conquer this insanity, but I know Dorchester's not the hood. It's just a place between Mattapan and Roxbury. It's also the place where a lot of our young people have been buried. But these fallen bones of our former visionaries should only help them make the hood fertile ground to turn the city of sorrow into an agricultural dream town where dreams are raised by the earful of children's laughter and after-school programs breed workers for the harvest. Don't you know it's after school when kids work the hardest? So as I pass by Pop Warner, I dare not mock their positivity because healthy bodies means healthy minds and healthy minds means healthy dreams. I just wish it worked in reverse because it seems a lot of these young bodies don't make it past their teens. And the ones that live out their lives can't seem to live out their dreams because the seed of encouragement wasn't sown when times got the hardest. I want to live in a world where we lay foundations for the future instead of our young people to rest, where we aim high and dream big and let God handle the rest. So as we grow old and they open the history books, a story is told of a people who helped our own develop by helping to overcome our difficulties instead of a people who handed over our dreams. Thank you. And get you guys back on the screen.
Woo, woo, woo!
Hey,
Let's
there we
go.
go. A little bit.
Yes.
I like what you did there with Neverland. Really like that.
Hey. So, a little history about this piece. I was actually, shout outs to D Ruff. At the Haley House, there was an event. I was leaving there, and so for those of you guys who don't know, the Haley House is a fixture in Dudley, Massachusetts. Well, not Dudley, in Boston, Nubian Square in Massachusetts, and they have hosted a lot of poetry events in that space. And I was walking through Dudley Square to the station, and I heard like a little black girl with like the pom-poms in her hair. She was talking about her cheerleading outfit, and like it was just something that struck me because it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the middle of the night. I'm in Dudley, and for those of you guys who are from Boston, you know that it doesn't necessarily have the best reputation. And as I'm walking, this other girl who's walking by herself, is talking about her dreams, and I'm like, yo, dreams live here. Just because Starbucks doesn't live here, just because Whole Foods doesn't live here, that doesn't mean dreams don't live here. Aspirations don't live here. And forget about being a doctor, a lawyer. Plumbers live here. If we don't have plumbers, all these fancy houses wouldn't run. Dreams don't have to be fancy things. They just have to be there. You know what I mean? I went to school for computer science, and now I have a full-time job as a supervisor for a solar company that I've been working at for 8 years. I've trained people who've trained people. And if you told me that I'd be working on roofs, getting up at 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning every day, getting dirty cuts and scrapes and bruises, yet I have a computer science degree from a prestigious university, people would be like, yo, Lemire, you're crazy. But here's the funny thing is, I never had a dream. So we actually had an episode on dreams, and I don't want to take too much time. But long story short, I was asked what my dream was, and I didn't know. And I was 18. I was graduated. I lost the scholarship because I got to the final end of the interview. Her first question was, "What's your dream?" And I had no idea what she was talking about. No clue. And yet, a 12-year-old girl walking by me in the middle of the night in Dudley has dreams in spades. Now, if she chases those dreams and fails, she's going to be successful. But what happens to our world if she chases those dreams and succeeds? Can you believe that? And so that was the inspiration for that piece. I say all that to say this, that every time I hear that piece, it reminds me that I got to do a podcast from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m. just because I thought of it. Because if I don't know who's not going to be affected by this. Every time I see Shari, I'm like, Shari, do your thing. Don't worry about them haters. Do your thing. Every time I see D Ruff, I make a joke. I make him laugh. But I let him know that I'm listening because those dreams are important, And that's what poetry is that vehicle. It's that ability to take this big idea and make it bite-sized. And it's bite-sized because we need to eat. We don't have to eat fancy. We just got to eat something because nourishment is good for, what it's good for. And I digress.
Speak on it, man. No, thank you. Thank you for giving us that piece. It was really wonderful. And I think the context is just really helpful, like to be on that journey with you. And, Lemire, I think it's really interesting to hear like your perspective about what that moment meant for you, and then to hear that turned into an entire journey, right? Like on paper and with you, and that was just really special. So thanks for that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, Anna, anything? D Ruff, anything? I think D Ruff.
I don't know where D-Ruff. D-Ruff is
is
sleeping somewhere.
D
Look
Ruff
at
is in Neverland.
You got Neverland, D-Ruff, Neverland. So
D Ruff is in Neverland for real.
no joke.
leave this man alone.
Hey,
You need to leave him alone. Oh,
Ruff, God bless you. I'm gonna let you knock. It is late. For those guys, make sure you follow D_Ruff, D_RUFF3 on all the social media. I'm gonna let D Ruff fuck out. For those of you guys just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Become podcast. Like I said, guys, it's nothing fancy, It's just people up at 2:09 at night, and you know what happens sometimes at 2:09 at night? People get sleepy. So there's that.
yeah. So he's dreaming. Yeah, D-Ruff is dreaming. No, but seriously, I was thinking about this idea of dreams that you had, and I guess this was a different podcast. But I was thinking how sometimes it's not a matter of us not having dreams as much as a matter of us not believing in them. And I feel like a lot of people of color get into this imposter syndrome where we have all these great ideas and then we shoot ourselves down because of the way we've grown up in society. And so I'm actually curious to know if you really didn't have a dream or if you really didn't actually like sort of imagine it.
To be completely honest, I had no, like, when I said I had no idea what she was talking about, like, imagine before salsa, someone walked up to you and said crossbody lead. They didn't even ask you to do it. They just said it. You're like, is that like, and mind you, I wasn't even a good dancer in high school, so I couldn't even do this isolation thing either. I was clueless. And what hurt me the most is like after the interview, it's like, it hurt twofold because it was something so simple, but for whatever reason, I was never taught to dream. Now, no disrespect to the people that raised me, strong immigrant parents, came from Haiti, worked 2 jobs, owned a business, made sure they told me to go to school, get an education. But like, even that, it's like, there was no why to get an education. It was just do it. But at the same time, it's just like, if you're not there, not to enforce, but if you're not there to reinforce the what or the why, it's hard. Both, now, bless them both. Mom worked from 3 to 11 in medical. Dad owned a business, so he was always gone. So it was me and my older sister. I mean, shout out to her. She's a lawyer. She's doing her thing. I shout out her every episode. But it was almost as if like we were married, because when my little brother came, folks were still out at work, but he had to be raised. You know what I mean? So like, I was already in that mindset of, all right, I gotta do. And once I got older and I left the house, I'm already in, okay, what's next? Like, I never was put in a situation, or the idea wasn't reinforced. Yo, it's okay to have wants and dreams and desires, how crazy or silly or practical or financial that they are. Even if they said, yo, you can make a lot. The funniest thing is, I'm blessed that was my upbringing, because one thing I am not is like, I'm not really materialistic. Like, I don't really care about things. And I say that not as like it's a big thing. It's just like, that's just me. I'm one of those people that can't have nice things because like I don't know the value of them. But it's because I was never taught to aspire for those things. I don't want a car. I happen to have car, well-paying job, a degree, gainfully employed, blah, blah, blah. But they don't mean anything to me in the sense like I don't need those things to survive, you know? The downside of that is, even if I was given that, like, now, so small Shari, I don't know if Shari, you may not know this, like, I've known Shari for like a long time. And one of the things I've always respected about Shari is like, she has been on her grind. She is one of those friends that you see working like they got 3 jobs. They probably do got 3, but if they got 1 job, they're working it like they got 3. And one thing that I always respected about her, I'm like, yo, she knows who she is. She knows where she's going. She has a destination. Meanwhile, I was 17. I had a brand new car. I had a job. Didn't really have, means. I mean, I wasn't balling, but I had, means. And I knew where I was going. And I like, not that I envied, I was like, I admired that she had a dream. And there are people like my peers. I went to a high school where it was a charter school. So we had people from all different neighborhoods. Some of them sold drugs. Some of them were DJs. Some of them aspired to be basketball players. But like, yo, I aspired to be like them because they knew who they were. Right or wrong, regardless of whatever society says, like, yo, they knew who they were. If I'm a drug dealer, I'm a drug dealer every day of the week. I wake up, this is me. Yeah, I wake up and I'm like, who am I? But part of that is like, even if I'm pretending to be someone I'm not, because a lot of people who say they sell drugs don't. A lot of people who say that they're big rappers are not. But at least they're going somewhere. They have a trajectory. I didn't even have that, So I say all that to say this, that at that time, it hurt because it was so simple that someone could have thrown away and I would have caught it. But realizing that it was so simple and yet I didn't have it, it's like, I never want to feel that again. So once I did start to have dreams, I'm like, yo, headlong. Every dream, whether I get it or not,
Lou, it's really interesting to hear you describe that. And you're right, I have known you for a long time. And I would say I am really struck by that because I have never seen you as a person that lacked passion, commitment, follow through. And I really think what you're talking about is, for me, at least as I hear it, and the way that you're thinking about like dreams in this moment, and even in that poem, is really about like imagination. Is about this opportunity to like imagine something so radically different, or just radically imaginative compared to your current reality. This license to step outside of your current experience and and engineer and think about something different. And I think, for a lot of folks that come from low-income backgrounds, or a lot of folks that maybe they have some responsibilities like you did that maybe not every young person has, their license, their freedom, their opportunity, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but to sit and reckon with and explore that imagination is different. And I've never known you not to have dreams, and I don't think that dreams are linear, right? But I do think there's something to be said about when folks are in circumstance where their energy is directed elsewhere. And for me, right, I'm an executive director. I do a lot of things. I'm involved in all sorts of movement work, but my imagination is non-negotiable, right? It's necessary for me to do the work that I do. It's necessary, like part of the equation for me in doing like work that allows folks to really center freedom, their freedoms, right? Requires imagination. And all of that to say, Lumiere, as you're talking about, your experience with dreams and dreaming, I've always known you to be imaginative. But my question really is, I think there was a moment in time, maybe when you were a teenager, where you were pulled in some different directions and you were focused on surviving and doing your responsibilities for the next day. My question for you is, do you feel like at that time you had the space to imagine what the next year, the next 5 years, the next 10 years look like? Because I don't think it was a lack of dreams, right? I think it was a lack of space.
I see what you mean. Yeah, and I think part of I think that does play a part of it. Because I went to a charter school. So I mean, it wasn't bad. Don't get me wrong. Everyone has their own struggles. The the outside of home things weren't the issue. Like, had a place to live, had a good school, this, that, and the third. I mean, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on because of how I grew up. You know, like I said, working parent, not to say that you can't survive, but I think that does put it into a different perspective. Like, not having the space. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the way to frame it. It's not that, because like I said, I've always been imaginative. I know that, you know, but having that space to want to, like, I couldn't tell my, like, for example, I couldn't tell my folks back then that I wanted to be a dancer. Like, what? Like, let's say I knew about dance. I didn't, because like me and dance, that's a whole other episode, you know. So, but let's say, for example, I did, you know, I couldn't tell them that I want to grow up and be a professional dancer. They'd be like, get out of here. Like, what are you talking? They wouldn't even entertain the thought, or to tell them that I'm going to be a photographer. Like, what is that? You're either going to be a doctor, a lawyer, stop. Like, what are you going to major in school? And I think that contributed to it. Like, I didn't know about college. Like, I knew about college because, you know, elementary school, college, but like, there was no why college. It was college because college, you know, but it was college because that's what I was taught. I was taught, like, I need to do this because, you know, and I think you're right. It's like not having that space to explore, well, this is why this is necessary, but also check this out, made me think that because it doesn't fit into this box that everyone else says, maybe it doesn't exist. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. It almost makes me wonder if you, like, this is something that I've experienced too. Like, I almost didn't count the things that I was passionate about at times as dreams, because especially when I was younger, they didn't fit into the aspirational things that other people talked about. So for example, Lou, you know this, I'm a martial artist. I grew up doing martial arts, right?
That's right. Yep.
And when people used to ask me, well, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I had one answer for 18 years. It was the same answer, right? I was like, I am going to be a martial arts instructor, and then I'm going to take over the world. And everyone was like, yeah, but what do you, like, do for work? And I was like, did you not just hear what I said? Like, I'm going to contribute and be a part of community by working with warriors that realize their own self-worth. Like, what other work is there, right? What are you talking about? But there were a lot of folks that heard me say that and didn't understand that it was a dream, and there were times that I didn't understand that it was a dream. It was like a thing I did, you know, but I wasn't like, I can do this and be excellent at it, and it's valuable. And all that to say, you know, I'm just having this moment where I'm thinking about your journey in that moment and how you interact with dreams now, and how you've approached this project, where you've said, I'm not just going to do this because it's cool. I want to be excellent at something and consider what it looks like to pull my different skill sets into one place and be excellent at it. I'm not just going to, like, do it as another thing. I have a dream about being able to issue 100 episodes and grow with those. And some people wouldn't count that as a dream, right? But in this moment you are. And I think that is the special part of all of this. Dreams are big and small, but it's up to you to be like, this is my dream and this is how I'm going to live into it. And this is what it means.
I like that a lot. Anna, anything? Yeah, Anna's like,
yeah. I'm just like taking it all in and processing. I mean, it's spot on. I think the only extra thing I would add is that I think often we see our paths as roads, and that's how they're often described. Like, you take this road or you take that road, and at some point they converge. But I like to think sometimes as what we do are sort of like shooting for the stars. But sometimes you have to create your own pathways and your own constellations. And so you have to figure that out. But sometimes we feel like we're doing a lot of different things and we're we don't know where it's going. It's, taking it back to poetry, it's the same thing. Like, we write and sometimes we don't know what we're writing. We do things, we don't know what we're doing all the time. But sometimes you just gotta do, and you'll find that pathway together if you're listening to it. And when you write, same thing, you'll find that pathway. So it's all interconnected, whether you're dreaming, you're doing, you're writing, it's all connected.
Word. Well, for those of you guys that are just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. We are your hosts, Shari Davis and Lumiere D, and we have the fantastic Miss Anna Masacote and D Ruff work in the background. Tonight's episode is on poetry, so we talked about what poetry meant to us, some different ways that poetry inspired us or interacted with our lives, read a couple pieces, we listened to a couple pieces. If you guys are just tuning in, we're going to be doing this Mondays and Thursday, well, Sunday into Monday, and then Thursday into Friday. We're still going to figure out the time. For right now, it may be 1 to 3, but we may make it early. Who knows? Make sure you check us out on all the social medias at If You Stream It Podcast. So that's on Instagram, Facebook. I made it easy for me, but also easy for you guys. It's all If You Stream It Podcast. If you Google it, it'll be easier for us to find it. And if you're listening to this during the day, shame on you. But also thank you for your support. So we did a lot. I'm so happy. This is a special episode. Shari is going to be with us for the next foreseeable future. Anna, thank you for being one of our first guests. You are welcome. Anytime you want to come in, say hi, say bye, be creepy, and be one of those number eyeballs in the corner that we can't see. Yeah, I see both of you. I don't know who you are, but you should be sleeping as it's 2:25, but whatever. We're not going to talk about that. So to wrap up, Shari, before we wrap, as we wrap up, I want to read one more piece from a friend of mine named Tamika. But before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to give to the peoples? Any last words?
No, I think what I would want to offer is just one more reminder that you brought up a little while ago, which is that we have a website and we should remind people what it is. And I think there's an Instagram and we should remind people what that is. And I'm just really excited about that. And with that is an invitation. If you're out there and you have an idea, if you have a dream, if you have a thing that you want to do, getting yourself a website costs $10.
$10.
$10. So you could have a website too. But Lumiere, what's our website again?
It's ifyoustreamitpodcast.com. That's www. Hold on, let me. I can't like multitask. And let me see. Podcast.com. There we go. ifyoustreamitpodcast.com. I'm gonna save that. Put it on the screen. Check us out on Instagram at If You Stream It Podcast. We're on Twitter, If You Stream It, because it was shorter, but that's Twitter. No one really follows that except for the president. But I digress. But again, If You Stream It Podcast.com. Check us out. We're going to be uploading the episodes as we stream. So we'll be editing them so it sounds a little bit smoother and things like that. As I said, we're going to get better every episode. So we're always going to be adding 1 or 2 new things. So definitely check us out. We're on the road for 100 episodes, and this is episode 13. Make sure you stay along for the journey. That's why I have a fantastic host like Shari, because I was going to sign out without shouting our own selves out. So there's that. But if there's nothing else from Shari or Anna, I want to read.
No, wait. Are we not going to hear Shari do some poetry? Oh, yeah. Like, hold on. Wait, what? I'm feeling cheated.
Shari, stop trying to sneak out the back door.
Back door.
No, that's important. I have to hear. No.
Some poetry. Oh, jeez. All right. We could do a quick haiku. How about that? I have. Lumiere knows I wrote a couple haikus the other day, so I have one of those on deck.
Okay.
Lumiere, do you want to read this piece first, and I can close this out with a very short haiku?
All right, word. So Anna, ask and you shall receive. You got a twofer. You're gonna get a poem by Miss Tamika, and then Shari is gonna close us out with the haiku. All right, let me edit some things so I can give Tamika some love. Let me just make sure I put stuff so she can see. All right. Tammy. Dub. Right. 1 second. Dub. Right. There we go. All right. That's the name on Facebook. That's what we're going to go with. So this is a poem by Tamika. Let me make sure I pull it out. Now, Tamika is one of my very well spoken and well read friends, but she was feeling a little bashful, so she wanted me to read it. So I hope I do it justice, but it looks pretty dope. So bear with me as I read Tamika's piece. The title is Crystals. I am a scientist. As I hold this piece of amethyst crystal, I puzzle over why it makes me feel so calm. So calm to have my flesh meet this rock. Why does my soul find peace? My heart find love? What is this magic? An element? Matter? Why so calm? Things have meanings, we give them, so why do I feel what I don't believe? Why does my spirit say yes, but my mind say no? Why am I so calm when my insides are at war? I take a trip to the moon as often as I do to escape myself and see life from the omniscient view. The laws of science, like laws because they offer absolutes, unlike emotions, they are true. What goes up must come down. What you sow, you shall reap, and things you think manifest. I look at my life and I see the truth in this. After what has felt like an eternity of sowing, I reap good fruit from a tree I've grown. So I believe me. So I believe me when I tell you this smile is genuine. This positive vibe is no act. This life of mine, I love. So what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? When you're expected to obey but are born to defy? When you're born a lady but think like a man? What happens when you're the product of love and betrayal at the same time? What happens when discipline becomes control? What happens when growing apart becomes neglect? What happens? Well, some things gotta give. And I do. I break. And what a melody so loud that it plays across the universe, disturbing the ears of those who've given up hope. My positivity it irritates them. My unwavering love unnerves them. My certainty that things will get better lead them to question my intelligence and my sanity, as I do. So I bathe in hot water and lay in the sun, suddenly realizing that I wash my crystals and lay them in the sun and always examine the way the light shines through the cracks and I acknowledge their beauty. So I implore you, look at my cracks, yes, but look at the beauty in them. The reason I hold these crystals and feel so calm is because I am manifesting the healing qualities this crystal is known to have. I am no scientist. I am the alchemist. So, Tammy, I'm mad at you. You definitely should have read that. But that piece is definitely fire. I really so a couple lines I really love, not to take too much time. I know it's the witching hour. And I just lost the poem. But when she talks about the beauty in her cracks, I feel like that's amazing. Any words from any of the peoples before Shari closes us out?
I wasn't planning on being the closer. Shout out to Anna for that. I wanted to say that I think, what really struck me was I'm obsessed with The Alchemist, actually, but I'm obsessed with like the entire story, right? Paulo Coelho's piece of work there. And that closing line just really struck me, right? I'm not a scientist, I'm an alchemist. It really speaks about transformation and the transformational nature of how you can perceive yourself and the world around you. And anyways, that piece that just really, really struck me in the closing, really sewed it up.
For sure. Yeah. So, Tammy, if you're listening, we loved your piece, and I'm gonna bully you till we get you back on. Oh, okay, I'm not gonna bully you. Poor choice of words. We're gonna strongly encourage and support and love on you so you can get on the mic and read it in your own voice. But shout out to you. Thank you for that. Make sure you hit me up so I can put your social medias on the page so people can follow you afterwards. But without further ado, we're going to close ourselves out with Miss Shari Davis. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a fantastic 13 episodes. We're on the road to 100. It's getting a lot better. It's going to get even better than this. If you're just tuning in, it's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. Tonight, our topic was poetry. And to close this out with an original poem, Miss Shari Davis.
Yes, this is a Shari Davis original. I write a lot and I never share. And recently I've been thinking about doing a haiku project, and I've been writing myself all these haikus. Most of them are very, very queer. But this one that I'm going to share right now is timely and particularly on brand. I run the Participatory Budgeting Project, and I focus a lot on democracy, and in particular, empowering community members that are often left out and intentionally excluded to be at the center of a process in making decisions. And relationships to democracy for folks that have been left out, excluded, and even harmed can be really challenging. But there's a moment right now that we're all in that I'm really excited about, and it's an opportunity for us not to reclaim democracy, because for some of us, we've never had it, but to claim it, period. And so my really short haiku is called Claiming Democracy, and I'll read it twice because haikus are short.
All right, let me cue up your audio.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Go ahead.
You're good. Anna, don't go away. I'm just taking you off the screen, and I'm going to take myself off the screen. And Shari, once I'm off, you're free to go.
So this piece is called Claiming Democracy. It is a haiku. Leave me alone, sir. I'm awake now. It's vote time. I decide what counts. One more time for you. It's short, just in case you missed it. This haiku is called Claiming Democracy. And it goes like this. Leave me alone, sir. I'm awake now. It's vote time. I decide what counts.
Yo, Shari, that piece is fire. What? Yes.
Yes.
All of that, and then yes. What?
The sir part was really intentional. I don't know. Did y'all pick up on that piece? That was like.
I mean, I think so. I was struggling with that last line. Can you run that last line again? Share, ladies and gentlemen, so I wanted to have a talk show before COVID, and then COVID happened, and this magical experiment happened. But who else would I have as my host? I don't want to call her co-host, so I don't want to make it seem like no, as the host of this show, Miss Shari flipping Davis.
The mutual loop. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for listening to my haiku. If you're out there listening to that and you have thoughts or feedback, or if you want to share it, or if you care about democracy, I care about democracy too, and we should care about it together. But yeah, thank you, Lumiere, for having me on as a host with you for our first episode together. I'm looking forward to the next 87 episodes.
Let's go!
I can't wait.
Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, if we don't leave now, we'll be here forever. So,
yeah.
Anna, I'm gonna let you go. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. We'll edit this and make sure all your socials is there. I'm gonna say goodbye, not because I don't want to see your lovely face. I do, but I need to motivate these people to leave. So, Anna, I will see you later.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. It's the If You Stream It, They Will Come podcast. Make sure you check us out online at www.ifyoustreamitpodcast.com. Sorry, I get excited. But now that you're thoroughly excited, you should probably go to sleep. I'm going to go to sleep because it's 2:38 in the morning. For all my West Coast people, you should still go to sleep.
You should still go to sleep.
Yeah, it's probably
I love you, and I love all the folks that were able to tune in and listen. I'm excited to keep the conversation rocking and going. This was awesome.
Hey, and as always, we streamed it, and you guys came, and we're grateful. We will see you guys on Sunday into Monday. Well, it's not really going to be the same time because we haven't figured that out. But we'll let you know. That's why you should follow us on Instagram and all the things. But we love you, and we will see you guys next time. Peace, and that is a wrap.